I worked at Nickelodeon's animation archive from 2009 to 2012. My job was digitizing old master tapes, VHS, Betacam, anything that predated digital storage. Most days I'd sit in a climate-controlled room converting Hey Arnold and Rugrats episodes while drinking terrible coffee. It was mind-numbing work, but it paid for my film school loans. In November 2011, I found an unlabeled tape in a box marked SB Production Errors Do Not Catalog. The box had been sitting in cold storage since 2004. Inside were maybe 20 tapes, all with cryptic labels like Goo Lagoon Wrong Audio or Patrick House Continuity. Standard production mistakes. But one tape had no label at all. Just a piece of masking tape with After Hours written in faded ballpoint pen. I shouldn't have played it. The box said not to catalog it, which meant don't watch it, don't digitize it, don't acknowledge its existence. But I was alone that night. The evening archivist had called in sick, and my supervisor had left at 6. The building was silent except for the hum of the ventilation system. I slipped the tape into the machine. The episode opened normally enough. The title card read The Krusty Krab After Hours in the standard SpongeBob font. But something was off about the animation. The colors were slightly desaturated, like someone had turned down the saturation slider by 10%. SpongeBob was closing up the restaurant, mopping the floors in the empty dining area. Mr. Krabs had already left. Squidward was counting the register. SpongeBob's movements were too smooth. SpongeBob SquarePants has always had that jerky, elastic animation style, characters snapping between poses, stretching and squashing for comic effect. This was different. SpongeBob moved with an unsettling fluidity, his limbs swaying naturally as he pushed the mop back and forth. It looked wrong, like watching a real person in a SpongeBob costume. "Ready to go home, Squidward?" SpongeBob said. His voice sounded right, Tom Kenny's familiar delivery, but the lip sync was off by maybe half a second. Squidward grunted and headed for the door. SpongeBob followed, turning off the lights. The restaurant went dark. Then SpongeBob stopped. He turned back toward the kitchen. "Did you hear that?" he asked. Squidward was already outside. "Hear what?" The door swung shut, leaving SpongeBob alone in the darkened restaurant. That's when I noticed the sound design. Most SpongeBob episodes are filled with goofy sound effects, boings, slide whistles, bubble noises. This episode had none of that, just silence. Deep, oppressive silence, broken only by the faint hum of the Krusty Krab's refrigerator. It was too realistic, too mundane for a cartoon. SpongeBob walked back toward the kitchen. "Hello, Mr. Krabs?" His voice echoed slightly, like the restaurant had suddenly gotten larger. He pushed through the kitchen doors. The kitchen was dark except for a thin beam of moonlight coming through a porthole window I'd never seen before. The animation showed dust particles floating in the light. Dust particles in a SpongeBob episode. Something moved in the corner. SpongeBob turned his head. "Squidward, is that you?" No response. Just that refrigerator hum, now louder, now with an irregular pulse to it, like breathing. The thing in the corner moved again. It was tall. Taller than any character in the show. The animation style shifted. Whoever drew this had used a different technique. Rotoscoped, maybe, or motion capture. The figure moved like a real person, not a cartoon character. It stepped into the moonlight. It looked like Squidward. Same green color, same bald head, same droopy features. But the proportions were wrong. The head was too small for the body. The arms were too long, reaching down past where knees should be. And the eyes? The eyes weren't the tired, irritated ovals Squidward usually had. They were detailed. Too detailed. They had veins. They had depth. They looked wet. SpongeBob backed up. "Squidward? You're scaring me." His voice had changed, no longer cheerful, genuinely afraid. The thing that looked like Squidward didn't speak. It just stared, those wet eyes unblinking, and took another step forward. Its feet made a sound when they hit the floor. A real sound. The slap of bare skin on tile. I paused the tape. My hands were shaking. This couldn't be a real SpongeBob episode. Someone had made this. Some animator had spent hours creating this, drawing each frame, recording the audio. Why? Why would someone make this? I checked the time code. Only 4 minutes had passed. The episode was 11 minutes long. I pressed play. SpongeBob ran. He bolted through the kitchen doors back into the dining area. The lights were still off. He fumbled for the switch, but when the lights came on, the restaurant had changed. The tables were in different positions. The walls were a slightly different shade. The menu on the wall was written in a language I didn't recognize. And the thing that looked like Squidward was standing right behind him. SpongeBob spun around. The thing didn't react, didn't blink, didn't breathe, just stood there, swaying slightly. Those detailed eyes on me. SpongeBob's face. Then it spoke. Yeesh. Why are you still here? The voice was Roger Bumpass's voice, Squidward's voice actor, but run through some kind of filter, slowed down, layered, like 3 people speaking in unison, slightly out of sync. I was just closing up, SpongeBob stammered. I'm leaving now. I'm sorry. He backed toward the door. The thing matched his movement, staying the same distance away, always swaying, always staring. You weren't supposed to stay, it said. After hours is not for you. SpongeBob's back hit the door. He grabbed the handle. Locked. He pulled harder. Still locked. The thing took another step. You need to leave, it said. But you can't leave. Do you understand? You can't leave because you stayed. The animation quality degraded, like the animator had given up. SpongeBob's outline became shaky. His colors started to bleed outside the lines, but the Squidward thing remained perfectly rendered, every detail sharp and clear. It reached out one of those 2 long arms. The screen went black. For 10 seconds, just black. Then text appeared. White letters on black background. This is what happens after hours. The text faded. The screen stayed black for another 20 seconds. When the image returned, SpongeBob was alone in the restaurant. Normal Squidward was standing by the door, looking annoyed. Are you coming or not? He snapped. SpongeBob nodded and followed him out. The lights went off. The episode ended. Credits rolled. Standard SpongeBob credits. I watched them all the way through, waiting for something, some explanation, some context. Nothing. Just the normal crew list. But at the very end, after the Nickelodeon logo, a single line of text appeared. If you're watching this, you stayed too late. I ejected the tape. It was 11:47 p.m. I'd been in the building for 5 hours past my shift. I was supposed to leave at 7. The hallway outside my room was dark. The motion sensor lights should have been on, but they weren't. I could hear the ventilation system, that same steady hum, now with a pulse to it I'd never noticed before. I grabbed my bag and walked toward the exit. My footsteps echoed. The building felt larger than it had that morning. The hallway seemed longer. I passed the break room. Someone had left the TV on. Static. Just static. But in the static, for just a moment, I saw a shape. Tall. Swaying. I ran. I didn't look back. I burst through the exit doors into the parking lot. My car was the only one left. I drove home and didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I told my supervisor about the tape. He went to the storage room. The box marked "Do Not Catalog" was gone. No record of it in the system, no shipping logs, no transfer receipts. He looked at me like I'd made the whole thing up. I quit 2 weeks later, found a job at a post-production house that worked on reality TV. No animation, no archives, nothing that required me to work late. But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I hear that hum, that rhythmic, pulsing hum. And I wonder if I really left, or if I stayed too late and everything since has been what happens after hours.